down, close that down, close that down.
As it is 7 p.m. on a Monday, and we are at the Milwaukee Makerspace. It is time for Model Monday. Today, we're going to be making wheels. We're in our combat robot series. We've been making parts for our combat robots. And today we're going to make wheels. Now, your combat robot does not need to be locomoted. Locomoted? Is that a word? Can you locomote something? To locomote. It does not need to move with the power of wheels. Last week we did a shuffling feet mechanism. So if you missed that, go check that out. But this week we're doing wheels. I'm just going to go ahead and start a new project. Let's go ahead and stop that animation. Here's a little close-up of our wheel here. So a wheel with a simple tread. If we have time, we'll put a gear on it. And put a gear on it. Because that's how we roll in this class. Put gears on things. And if you're a wheel, that's how you roll. All right, so we got a new document here. I am going to start by creating a new sketch. So we'll click on the Create menu. Now I know we have a new student here, so don't hesitate to stop me and ask questions. Cool? Cool. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll click on Create, and we'll click on Create Sketch. One of my favorite things about Fusion 360 is there are lots of what they call tool tips. And here, if I reach in and grab my pointer tool here, so a tool tip is one of these kind of things right here. So if I just hover over anything in the menu, it'll give me a tool tip. And what the tool tip tells me is the first paragraph there is what the tool does. So this tool enters the sketch mode, where you can create geometric profiles that define the foundation of a design. And then the second paragraph usually explains how to use the tool, which is great. So if you want to hover over something and try using it for the first time, you can often get the information that you need in the second paragraph, which is great. All right, so we'll click on Create Sketch. Now, if I don't know what to do, I can just stop moving my mouse again, and it'll tell me what to do. So it says I'm supposed to select a plane or a planar face. So these three items over here are three imaginary pieces of paper that are kind of floating in our 3D world. So you can't just start drawing in midair. You got to draw on a piece of paper like the floor or the wall or the ceiling. People often do that here at the Makerspace. They draw on all the walls. Mm-hmm. So these three surfaces are imaginary sheets of paper that we have to draw on. And I'm just going to go ahead and pick on one of them. It doesn't really matter which one we choose. I'm going to pick the one in between my blue and my green axis. And I'm just going to click on it. And I will spin around to face down. I've twisted around to face down on that face now. And all of my tools at the top have changed to my drawing tools, my sketching tools. And now from that set of tools at the top, if we come down to the circle menu, and we come over to the center diameter circle, we're going to make a center diameter circle here. To make a center diameter circle, again, I could just stop moving my mouse and it'll tell me I'm supposed to place the center point. As a rule, I try to get people to have some part of their sketch connected to the middle of the drawing world here. This is the origin, the center of the X and the Y axis there. It's just a good rule to keep in mind. It'll save you some headaches later. I won't get into a whole lot of reasons why. Just trust me, it's a good rule. All right, so I'm just going to click one time, and now I've placed the center point. And now I can move my mouse out. So it's a click and then release and then move, not a click and drag. And hopefully you can see numbers here. Cool. So once you can see numbers, I encourage people to let go of your mouse and embrace the force within your fingers. like a Jedi, we're going to use our hands to control things with the keyboard. So now I want to type in how big I want my wheel to be. My wheel is going to be 3 inches.
Inches.
I know, right? Nick, are you drawing in inches over there? Or?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. All right. I often forget.
Our blood is red, white, and
Okay.
blue over here.
Excellent. All right. Cool. So 3 freedom units is what we got as our circle. And now I can just hit enter. Cool? Circles? All right, cool. Let's make some more circles. So I'm going to make another circle. I'm going to click on the Create menu, and I'm going to come down to the Circle tool. I'm going to choose that center diameter circle again. So this is kind of the outside of our wheel hub. I'm going to make another circle at the same center point as my first circle. And let's make this 1.5 inches. So this is kind of the inner circle, or the inner circle of our wheel hub. Let's make one more circle before we move on. So from my Create menu, I'm going to go ahead and grab the center diameter circle one more time. And I'll make one more circle that is 2.5 inches. Now these measurements that it has given me in here, it just kind of places these measurements, and you can move these in a place where they're legible. So all these dimensions here, I can just click and drag on them, and I can move them to places where I can actually read them. This is not really what I would say, what I would deem as necessary, but it's certainly helpful, because later you're going to have to look at this sketch, and you're going to have to know what these measurements are if you want to change them, and it's really handy to make them easily legible. You will thank yourself later. All right. I'm going to make one more sketch here. So the inside of our wheel, I'm going to make a square shaft for the inside of our wheel. So if we choose from our Create menu in the rectangle drop down, the center rectangle. So a center rectangle works very similar to a center diameter circle. So the way that you make a center rectangle is you click at the center to define the center point, and now we define 2 dimensions here. To bounce back and forth between 2 dimensions, I use the Tab key on my keyboard. So Tab will bounce me back and forth between these 2 dimensions. Now, I will say we do love our freedom units, but when I buy things from the internet, sometimes they're in a standard unit of measurement that literally everybody else in the world uses. And so the shafts that I have found are 10 millimeter shafts. And you can type in just mm, and it will automatically do a conversion here. So you can type in 10 millimeters. And it will automatically do that conversion to inches, so you don't have to do that math yourself. And then again, these measurements, I'm just going to kind of click and drag and move them to a place where they're easily legible for me to read later. All right. So we've got the beginning of a wheel. We got the beginning of a wheel?
Yep.
Nice. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and we're going to finish this sketch for now. So I'm going to come up here to this icon, and I'm going to choose the Finish Sketch button here. Now, all of your measurements immediately go away, and you should immediately panic. It's okay. Don't worry. Don't panic. So right now, since we clicked Finish Sketch, we're no longer editing that sketch. So all my measurements are gone. All my 3D tools are back. But don't worry, all those measurements are still there. If we wanted to see them again, in our browser, over on the left-hand side of our screen here, there's a little triangle next to the Sketches folder. That Sketches folder just appeared when we clicked Finish Sketch. And inside of that Sketches folder is a sketch. It's called Sketch 1. I always encourage people to name your sketches. It can be really easy to have a drawing with 14 sketches in it. And if they're all labeled Sketch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you don't know what any of them are. So let's go ahead and name our sketch. If I click on the word Sketch 1 once, and then I pause for a second, and then I click again, now you can see I can change the name of that sketch. Literally anything is better than Sketch 1.
Sketch 2?
We're making a wheel.
Oh.
So I'm going to call it Wheel.
Oh, you got future and CAD.
Huh?
You got future and CAD.
Look, I named a thing. Hashtag CAD professional.
I think it's Sketch 2.
I mean,
Maybe
you know,
Sketch 2.
that counts.
Sketch 2-1.
Right. All right, cool. So we named a sketch. Let's extrude. Let's make a three-dimensional shape from this sketch here. So from our Create menu, let's go ahead and grab the Extrude tool.
Which region are you going to extrude first?
I am going to extrude. So here's our extrude little
extra
extrude
step I have
dialog
to
box
take, so
over
if
here
I know I
popped
can
up.
fiddle with it.
I am going to extrude
Outer? Okay.
the outer and the inner here. Both of these I'm going to extrude.
Oh, to the same distance.
Yeah, to the same distance. For me, that distance is going to be an inch, I think. I think my wheel is going to be an inch thick. But part of the thing about that I try to encourage people to do in this class is you don't necessarily need to make the wheel that I'm making. You can make the wheel however big you want to. If you want to make a 12-inch wheel, you should do that. And then you can make your dad actually build that 12-inch wheel. Right? Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah, no problem.
That's 76 millimeters, 3 inches. That's a standard turbo size.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to extrude out this shape. Now, something that we haven't done so far is right now we're looking straight down at our wheel, right? Up in the top right-hand corner, there's this navigation cube here. There's a little cube that helps us twist and turn around our 3D environment here. So if I click and drag on this cube, you can see I'm kind of looking at this wheel in a little bit more three-dimensional way. And now this little blue arrow, I can click and drag on this blue arrow and give my wheel some thickness. Now again, once I start dragging that blue arrow, I can see that I've got some numbers that appear. So at that point, I let go of my mouse and I can type in, I'm going to do 1 inch. It's going to be the thickness of my wheel. Now there's a lot of options here in the dialog box, and we're going to talk about these options the next time we do an extrusion here. So for this first extrusion, we'll ignore some of this stuff except for the distance, which we've entered in as 1 inch. But later on in the next extrusion, we'll come back and we'll explore some of these other options here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. All right, now we've got a wheel, or we've got a vaguely wheel-shaped object, let's call it. Our wheel is missing spokes. We don't have anything that connects the inner part of our wheel to the outer part of our wheel. So let's go ahead and let's make that now. Down here at the bottom of our project here, we've got a timeline of events. So those two little icons that you see down there, you see a sketch icon and you see an extrude icon. Those are two little things that, those are the two things we've done so far. We've sketched a thing and we've extruded a thing, right? And now at any point in time, we can go back into the past to when we were making that sketch or when we were making that extrusion, and we could change something about that sketch or that extrusion.
How much did you extrude out?
1 inch.
1 inch.
Or 2.54,
25.4.
25.4 millimeters. Sorry.
Hopefully this thing will calculate it for me. Because inches are terrible.
That is blasphemy, sir. All right. So what we want to do is we want to go back and we want to add something to our sketch. We want to add some spokes to our sketch. So there are two ways we can do that. We can right-click on the sketch down here in our timeline, the very first sketch we made. We can right-click on it, and we can say Edit Sketch. Or the second way we could do that is our sketch in our Sketches folder. Remember how we named it so nicely? We can also, in our browser, right-click on the sketch in our Sketches folder, and then say Edit Sketch. See what's happening.
There we go.
Successive?
We're trying to reopen that sketch again.
Yeah. I think you want the other click.
Down here, left and right.
There you go. There we go. And then you want to say Edit Sketch. Nice. All right, cool. So now we've gone back in time to before when we made that sketch three-dimensional. And now we can draw in what our spoke is going to look like. So I'm going to draw my spoke down here at the bottom. A spoke can be really simple.
You know we're putting that in after the extrusion of the wheel, right?
Yes, we are.
Logically,
Yeah.
if you put it in too early, you spoke too soon.
That is true. And that's why we didn't put it in to begin with. So I didn't want to speak too soon. I didn't want to spoke too soon. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and draw. I'm going to draw a couple of different spokes, and you can decide which ones you'd like to do. So we could do it with just a simple couple of lines, a line tool here. So I could grab my line tool and tell you what, I want to make my spokes symmetrical. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from the center point of all of my circles straight down. So if I draw a line from the center point of my circles straight down just to one of these little circles, it doesn't need to go all the way down to the outside. I'm just going to draw a line straight down. And now, with that line drawn straight down, I could draw another line out here. I can draw another line out here. And then I could use a tool to mirror this line over this line. So here, I'm going to do this a couple of different ways. So I'll kind of show you the end goal here is if we grab our mirror tool and we mirror it over this line here, our goal is to create a little spoke like that. Now, this is a spoke made with straight lines. which is fine. You could make a spoke with straight lines. But you could also make a spoke with the arc tool. So in the create menu, there is an option called arc, and there is a 3-point arc tool, which is my personal favorite kind of arc. And we could make an arc like that. So the way you make a 3-point arc is I click to place the beginning of my arc, and then I click to place the end of my arc, and then I move my mouse in between, and as I'm moving my mouse here, you can see I'm kind of giving it a shape there. You could make...
You said that was a 3-point arc?
This is a 3-point arc, yeah. You could grab your line tool and you could make like a series of zigzags if you wanted to. You could make a weird zigzag spoke. That would totally be fine to do. But no matter what shape you draw over here, we want to go ahead and grab from our create menu the mirror option. Cool. So now, once you've got a line or an arc or a zigzag, whatever it's going to be, now from the create menu, you can come over to the mirror option. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick as the object that I'm going to mirror. The object is going to be the spoke that I want to make here, and I like this curved spoke, so I'm going to roll with that one. And then the line that I'm going to mirror it across, if I hit the select button next to the mirror line option here in my mirror window, the line is going to be that straight up and down line that we made. And then you'll see it'll make a little ghosted version of whatever you got going on there. Roll. Yeah, nice. All right. Cool. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And then I'm also going to say Finish Sketch. So I'm going to click on the little Finish Sketch button over here. Or I can also click on the Finish Sketch button in my sketch palette. So we've had this sketch palette here when we're making a sketch. I can click on the little Finish Sketch button there as well. All right. Cool. So we've got a spoke, but we need to extrude out this spoke, right? So let's go ahead and from our create menu again, we go ahead and click on create, and then we'll come down to the extrude option, and we'll pick as the object the profile that we're going to extrude. We'll pick our spoke shape. And
Hey Carl,
yeah.
Did you turn the lights off? Is this?
Yeah, I turned off half the lights.
Oh,
Yeah,
just
it makes it
that.
easier to see the screen a little bit.
Yeah, that's I like it. It's still hard to read what's going on over there. That's
Yeah, it
why.
gets cut off. Yeah, sorry.
No, I mean, it just looks kind of blurry. It's still kind of bright for me.
Oh, right on. Yeah. Yeah, it could be we got a focus issue going on here too. But we're going to extrude out a distance of 3/4 of an inch.
So how do you, what is that, Carl? You said
3/4 of an inch is what I.
So that's 0.75.
Yeah, 0.75. You can also, oh boy, I hit the wrong button. You can also type in fractions here. Are you learning fractions in school?
No.
Not yet? When do you do, what grade are you in right now?
What grade are you?
Third grade, okay. Fractions are like a 5th grade thing, I think.
Yeah. She's doing multiplication.
Okay, cool. Nice. Yeah, so you can also write a fraction here. You can also write 3/4, which is 3.
Oh, that works like that.
It does, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, we're joining?
We're joining.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, we've got a spoke, but our problem is right now we've only got one spoke. And this would probably be not a very strong wheel. Single spoke wheel. Have you ever seen a bicycle with just one spoke on it? Yeah. Did it get lopsided real quick? So what we really need to do is we need to make a whole bunch of these around the outside. We need to make a pattern of spokes all around the outside here. And it just so happens that there is a tool that will allow us to make a circular pattern. So in our create menu, if we come down to pattern and then over to circular pattern, again, there's a great tooltip here with a kind of image that shows kind of what this does is it makes a pattern of a thing. So we're going to choose this circular pattern option. Now, mine has already defaulted to the right type because I was prepping for class and I did this before class. Yours probably says the object type that you're making a pattern of is a body. We actually, we're going to make an object type that is a feature. A feature are these things down here. So before we talked about these little icons that were appearing in our timeline, these are what are called features. So if we make a pattern of the feature that was this very last extrusion that we did, so the object that we're making a pattern of, in fact, I can click on it here in my drawing view, which is kind of nice. I can either click on it in the timeline, that will work just fine, or I can also click on it here in my drawing view. So in my drawing view, it kind of recognizes that this thing is its own feature.
I don't know, Carl. Looks like we're all the way lit up over here.
Oh yeah.
The whole thing turned blue once you click that there.
Try clicking. Well, let's try doing the next thing. So next, let's click on the axis. So over here in our circular pattern window, there's a little axis option here. And the axis, you can pick on just any of our circles. And then the last number that I did was 30. 6 is probably a more reasonable pattern. Yeah, so if you hover over like the edge of the circle. Hey, all right, cool. And now you can pick however many spokes you want on your wheel. I picked 6. You could do 4. You could do 3. You could do 5. You cannot do 7 though. 7 would be unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Or 10, because we don't do base.
5 is right. Okay.
We don't do base 10 in this class. So 10 would also be unacceptable.
We use hexadecimal though. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
I'm gonna do a base of A.
How are you doing in FreeCAD?
Pretty good.
Good.
I'm a bit behind, but I know how to get to where you are, so that's
Nice.
I just need to.
All right.
Did you hear what I said, Carl?
I did it, no.
I whispered to her, you can do 10 if you want.
You can. You can totally do 10 if you want to.
Did you know why? You know how we know that like the pyramids and there's like all kinds of shit that they built all over the world that we know that they knew how big the earth is because their measurement system was based on the size of the earth.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And that's where we have our inches and all that is from. That's
Yeah.
related to that. So we build stuff. So if a meteor wiped us out and there was something that was left, they'd be like, hey, they knew how big the earth was.
All right, cool. So we've got a wheel. In fact, we've got a bodies folder over here. So as we made these things three-dimensional, like just like when we made a sketch, we had a sketches folder that pops up. When we've got bodies now we've got a bodies folder that pops up. A body is anything that's a three-dimensional shape here. And it has inappropriately named our body, body 1, because it doesn't know that this is clearly a wheel. So I'm going to go ahead and name it. In fact, specifically, this is a wheel hub. So this is the part that the tire goes on. So if I click on the word body 1 once, and then I pause, and I click a second time, I can now call this my hub. Or you could call it wheel hub. Or you could call it 10-spoked hub. Whatever, anything is better than body 1. All right, cool. So, almost last, what we want to do here is we've got a hub for our wheel. We need the tire part. Let's make the tire around the outside of our wheel here, shall we? In order to do that, we're going to add it to our original sketch. So we're going to go back to our original sketch, and we're going to add the tire around the outside here. So we can either do that by right-clicking on the sketch in our timeline down here at the bottom, that very first sketch we did, or we can right-click on the sketch in our sketches folder, and we can say edit sketch. And then we go back in time to when we were editing this sketch. And the way that I'm going to choose to make this tire is, we could just draw another circle, but I kind of want to show you another tool here. So in the Modify menu, there is a tool called Offset. And what the Offset tool does is it says, hey, it takes whatever you click on, and it will make something that is exactly that same shape, except a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. So if I choose this Offset tool, and I choose my outer circle as the curve to offset, now I get this little blue pill here that I can drag around, and I can offset by a specific distance here. So now we're kind of choosing the thickness that we want our tire to be. And I'm going to make mine 1/4 inch. Seems like a decent thickness for a tire. But you can make your tire as thick as you want, or as thin as you want. So you can type in 0.25. You can also type in 1/4. And then I'm going to hit enter. And I am, once again, done making this sketch. So I'm going to go ahead and say finish sketch. Now we can extrude out our tire shape. So our tire we have to look at our sketch again. So there are little eyeballs next to our sketches folder and next to each of the sketches in that folder. We've just got one sketch right now. And right now my eyeball is kind of turned off. So if you can't see your sketch, You got to kind of check and make sure that little eyeball is not turned off. That is the visibility for that sketch. You can also turn off the visibility for your bodies too if you want to. You can hide your body if you want to. Oop.
That sounds like a useful skill.
Right. You can become invisible to the world just by clicking on the little eyeball.
Well, it's...
I could. That's like a Three Stooges thing. I can click on your eyeballs, and then
No.
you can't see me anymore. All
Yeah,
right.
that works.
Actually, yeah.
Totally works. It checks out. All right. People are like, who are the Three Stooges?
What? No, I love
Yeah.
the Three Stooges. I used to watch them when I was a kid.
I know all 4 of them.
Shemp too, huh?
Uh-huh.
All right.
Counts.
All right. So from the Create menu, let's go ahead and choose the Extrude option again. And I'm going to go ahead and pick as the profile that I'm going to extrude is that ring that we offset in our sketch there. And I'm going to extrude at a distance of 1 inch. Now, something we did not mention the first couple of times we use this extrude dialog box is there's a very important thing here. This is the operation. The last option in that extrude dialog box. And the operation is defaulting to join. So, and that's what we've been doing up until this point. When we extruded out this shape, we extruded out these spokes, and the operation was set to join, so it combined this inner hub with this outer hub, and it made it all just one body, right? The tire here, we don't want to join to our hub. The tire, we want to be its own body. So we're going to change that operation from join to new body. And that'll make it its own, it'll have its own unique body in our bodies folder.
So when you press join, that makes them all those separate pieces or turn into one piece?
Turn into one piece,
Okay.
exactly, yeah.
And this is now, so this piece is a separate piece from that.
Exactly, it's going to be a whole separate piece. And I think let's go ahead and, in the next step, let's add some color to our thing here. So we clicked OK. I'm going to go ahead and name the body that I just made. This is called body 3 for me, but I'm going to click on it and then pause and then click a second time, and we're going to call this the tire. Now, maybe something I don't do enough in this class is we're just staring at a pile of gray, which is not enjoyable. So we can add some colors, and there's probably really good reason to do this, so you can visually see the difference between parts. So from the Modify menu, if we come down to the Appearance option, now we've got a whole bunch of different folders over here, and I can scroll through the list of folders. In the Other category, in the Other folder, there is a rubber folder, and then there's this thing called Bumpy Rubber. If I click and drag, I can drag this out on top of my body, my tire shape here. I can either drop it on the tire here in my drawing view, or I can drop it on my tire in my browser. So this is another reason to like name your bodies. And it'll go ahead and it'll make that tire look like it's made of rubber. I'm also going to change my hub here. My hub is gray.
So you got the rubber in other?
Yeah, my rubber was in Other, and then in the
We
rubber
don't have
folder.
all that.
Oh, really?
No, we got base materials and that's it there.
Oh. Oh, maybe you gotta close that. Oh, so you just click on base materials there? That's like a folder inside of there? Oh, huh. I don't know. Where the rubber at?
You know, I just saw a thing that said something about update, so I didn't read it, so.
There's rubber. Rubber was in miscellaneous for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Machine.
There we go. So you can choose. So you can just click and drag it out on top of your wheel shape. There we go. Nice. All right. Cool. And then you can pick whichever material you would like, or whichever appearance you'd like for your hub. So if you wanted to, you could make it out of, in the metal section. My favorite thing to make wheel hubs out of is solid gold. So there's a gold option there. I can make that wheel out of solid gold. Real heavy wheel. You can also make it out of plastic, which would be a totally fine thing to make your wheel out of as well. So.
Ooh, there we go. And we will be graphite.
All right.
You know,
So
that seems to
the
be-
very last thing that we need to do in the last 10 minutes here, I think we got time, is I'd like to add some tread to our wheel. Right now our wheel is pretty smooth, and that may not give the best traction, right? So let's go ahead and add some tread. In order to add some tread, we need to be able to draw on something out here, right? We can't really draw on a curved surface. It won't let us draw directly on this curved surface. So we need to create, remember those imaginary surfaces we had at the beginning, those 3 planes that were kind of floating? We need to make our own plane. And we make our own planes in the construct menu. So everything in this construct menu is about making planes and axes and points, those kind of imaginary drawing things that we have. The plane that we want to make is called a tangent plane. And a tangent plane means a plane that exists right on the edge of a curved surface. So that wheel we have is a curved surface. So if we choose this tangent plane, and then as the face that we're going to be tangent to, it's going to be our outside of our wheel here. So our wheel rubber outside edge, right? So if I click on that, then it'll make one of those imaginary planes right up there. And I can say, okay. All right. Now, on that plane, let's go ahead and make a sketch. Do you remember how to make a sketch?
Yeah.
Cool. So we go to Create, and then we come down to Create Sketch. And then we're going to click on that brand new plane. That plane that we just made is going to be the plane that we choose to create our sketch on. And now again here we can have some creative freedom. So we can draw whatever tread we want. Let me show you some examples of treads that we can do. So if from my Create menu I choose my line tool, I could draw like some zigzags. I can make some zigzags here, and then I can make those zigzags go back. Your zigzags will look nicer than mine. The key to whatever shape we draw is we want to go out past the edges of our wheel. All right. So we could make it with curves. We could make it with like a 3-point arc tool. You can kind of do a series of curves like this. That's also a fine way to make a tread. Oops. Now zigzags are honestly my favorite just because I think they're cool looking. But whatever shape we make has to be enclosed. So right now this shape is open at this side. So I just need to close off the line at this side here. You can tell the difference between an enclosed shape and an open shape, because if I hover my mouse over a closed shape, if I hover my mouse, you can see it highlights kind of a white color. This shape is not closed, so when I hover my mouse here, it does not highlight as open there. I suppose you could also just make a really simple tread by just having like a couple of lines. So, in fact, I could just grab from my rectangle option, I could grab and make a 3-point rectangle, and I could just make a tread that was just an angled rectangle like that. This would also be a fine tread, just an angled rectangle.
So what did you mean, Carl, when you said a closed shape?
So this shape is fully enclosed, so it's connected all the way around. If I were to delete that side, this shape is not fully connected all the way around. You can see there's a gap here. And when there's a gap, it won't let me extrude it.
So that we can't make a 3-dimensional shape out of that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So now that it's fully enclosed there, now it's a shape that we can. You got a tread shape you're happy with?
Yeah, she's got one.
Cool. All right. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and say finish sketch. I've got a sketch that I can name here where it says sketch 2. This is the sketch of my tread. So I'm going to name that my tread. So I'll click on sketch 2. I'll pause. I'll click a second time. And then I'll write that it's my tread. Don't tread on me. Alright. I guess you could also call it your grip. Whatever you want to call it. Alright. I'm going to turn my navigation. I'm going to go to my navigation cube here. And I'm going to click and drag so I can see this a little bit more 3-dimensionally. Because it's fun for me like that. And the very last thing we have to do is to put this tread shape into our wheel here. So we're going to do that with a 2-step process. So if I come up to my create menu here, I suppose we could choose to just extrude this shape. But instead of doing that, let's go ahead and emboss it. So from our create menu, if we come down to the emboss option, emboss is kind of like extruding from a curve. So we'll choose as the sketch profile is going to be our tread shape, whichever tread shape you like. The face that we're going to emboss here is going to be our curve, the outside of our wheel. So we'll click on that as the face we're going to emboss. And now we can choose if we want to emboss it up or if we want to emboss it down. So if that tread is going to be raised up a little higher than this surface, and I can show you from the side what that looks like. So here it is raised up from the surface a little bit. If I switch it to the other option, it'll be pushed down into the surface. And I think that's the option that I'm going to go with. So it's going to push that down into the surface. And then I'm going to say OK. All right, so we've got a single tread. Now, if only there was a way for us to make this tread repeat over the entirety of the wheel. Is there do you remember a tool that we used before to do something like this? It was in our Create menu, and it was down here in our Pattern option. It was a circular pattern. So the same trick that we used to make the hubs, to repeat our hub shape, to repeat that feature that was our hub shape, we're gonna repeat our feature that is our tread shape here. So if I choose that circular pattern option, the feature that I'm gonna make a pattern of is our tread. So I can hover over it and I can click. I can click on it here in my drawing view, or I can click on it down here in my timeline, my little embossed timeline here.
Oh, you got some people. That's good.
Yeah. And then the axis that we're going to revolve it around
He's not?
is going to be our wheel. Now here, 3 is probably not enough. 6 is probably not enough either. I'm going to try 30. 30 looks like enough. 20 would probably also be phenomenally adequate. Although 20 would be against our rule of no base 10, so we're going to do 24, which is a totally normal number in freedom units. 24 is a round number in freedom units. And I'm going to say, okay. All right. So that is our wheel with some sweet tread for good traction.
Man.
Nice.
Got a whole wheel with treads on it and everything.
Very cool. All right, so we've drawn a wheel, we've drawn motors, we've drawn we've drawn a whole bunch. We got a couple of motors, I think.
Did you draw that?
Yeah, we drew motors a while ago. The next class that we do, I think we're going to make gearboxes in the advanced class next week. Not next week, the week after that, because I'm out of town next week. But this is our wheel. And until next week,
So what do we do with this?
have fun drawing stuff.
What do we do?